Productivity. Gladiator.
I'm Brian Nelson Palmer. On this show, I talk about life balance and practical productivity. It's about leveling you up as a whole, not just for work or just for home. And in this episode, I want to dig into commission sales, life balance, mistakes, and best practices. This is on the show with me today. I have April Myers, who is a realtor and vice president for RLAH Properties. So
Hi.
April, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Now, we're going to talk about commission sales. Talk
Right.
about your background with commission sales and how
Sure.
you're relevant to this topic today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been in the real estate industry since college. I took a
Wow.
little bit of a stint break when I came out to DC and used my actual communications degree for an internship. But basically since 2005, I have been in the real estate industry serving either as a realtor or be in a leadership role, managing agents at a brokerage. So,
Wow.
so yes.
I
So quite a
I
long
love
time. I'm going
that-
to age myself, but I think I graduated from college 16 years ago. So,
Oh,
quite a long
you're putting it on the record. You're brave. You're brave. I'm not going to admit it with us here. That's
Okay.
No. And I do love that. It's funny that you said that because I think most people who work in commission probably didn't go to college thinking, ooh, I want to work on commission.
Yeah.
Like that's
yeah.
probably
Real
didn't
estate's
happen.
been in my blood. So, since I was a teenager. So,
Yeah. So we said RLAH Properties.
Yes.
Can you, what does that stand for something? Where does the name come from?
Yeah. So we actually jumped on the DC acronym bandwagon when Jason Sherman, who started RLAH, started the brokerage. He started it as a real living at home franchise. So RLAH stands for Real Living at Home. And then at Properties is our parent company. We are an affiliate of theirs. They are a ginormous brokerage outside of in Chicago. So.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Real Living at Home, RLAH. Got it.
Yeah.
And what makes RLAH different? I mean, you've been in this game for a while. You could have joined any brokerage or any real estate company. What made you join RLAH?
Absolutely. The glory of, being in real estate is that there are so many different types of companies, but I've somewhat divided them into two different categories. You have a limited service brokerage and a full service brokerage. So agents can go either way. It's a very entrepreneurial business.
Right.
But I selected RLAH because of the services and support that they have and they offer the agents in the background. So it's somewhat of a boutique.
Nice. Like what? You said they offer in the background. That's an appeal. What do you mean?
So
Say a little more on that.
essentially, instead of me having to hire out like a graphic designer or a marketing person to manage some of the pieces in the video and the everything that comes along with being the sexy side of real estate, the company does that paring down for me. So they've already vetted the best vendors or hired the best designers, and they have them here on staff. So I don't have to go out and figure out who to hire for which project. So it really takes a lot of overwhelm off of my plate. So.
And that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today. Because if we're talking about
Absolutely.
commission sales, the more time you spend on that other stuff is less time you spend selling. So that would be a thing.
Yeah, we're
That's
going to
cool.
get into that, aren't we?
Yeah. And, I will say for me, I started my career in commission sales. Mine was actually at a furniture store. City Furniture down in South Florida was my home for the first 5 years of my career. And so I think so in our discussion today, I'm going to be coming at it from a person working in a furniture store, because that's my sort of background as I look at commission sales and life balance stuff. And you'll be coming at it from the realtor perspective. So I like this little dynamic we're going to have on a little different look at the same idea, which is you're working based on commission. And I'm assuming folks listening know when I say work on commission, what that means is you make a percentage of whatever business you close. So it's not a salary. This is, if you, whatever the deal is, if you make that deal, like if I sell a sofa, I get a percentage of the money of that sofa sale. Or in real estate, you're probably familiar with this, but in real estate, if you sell a home, you get a certain percentage of the sale price of that home. So that's what we mean by commission is that you are responsible for whatever your paycheck is based on your performance.
Yeah.
So So then, April, let's kind of jump in today. What I wanted to talk about first is, these shows are always from the employee's perspective, and then I do want to touch on from the manager's perspective or frontline supervisor that supervises a team of people that work on commission. So let's start for the employees or the people who work on commission. Let's talk about mistakes and then best practices. What are the mistakes that you have made or have seen made when it comes to life balance and commission sales?
So some common mistakes that I've seen over the years, I mean, I hate criticizing people because I really don't think that there's ever one right way to do something. However, I do think that there's some commonalities, right, after coming across hundreds of agents in my career, that I do feel like sometimes people let their ego get in the way. They want to, they feel like that they are want to do it their way and nobody else can do it better. So I think sometimes that can be one of the biggest obstacles. They're entrepreneurs for a reason. This is a very entrepreneurial business. Any sort of commission-based sales is, because you have to have that drive in you. So it somewhat attracts this like driver personality. So you see that a lot. So I have some others that I had written down based on.
Oh, let's go back and forth. We can go one for one. That's cool. I like that. Don't let your ego get in the way. I think getting like, it's that phrase that I always, it's like a mantra I love to live by, which is perfection gets in the way of done. And I feel like in sales that often is like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it done. I can see that being the thing. That's good.
Absolutely.
I like, one of the things I heard is that when it comes to life balance, I've heard some people say, they absolutely love the team that they work on. And so the phrase that I've heard several times is love the team. If you love the team, it doesn't feel like work. Right. And the thing for me that I struggle with is while that's really true, and I don't wish a bad, I hope everyone loves the team that they work on. That's why people stick with jobs. That's why people leave their jobs if they don't. So it makes perfect sense to say that. However, I also think if your team becomes your family and all you do is work, that doesn't lead to the life balance that I think many people want. Inevitably, they'll hit the burnout stage where the work is family, is all together. And then there's one bad day at work and your whole life feels like it came off the wheels or off the rails, not the wheels, off the rails, because it doesn't, like that's all you have is this work and work family. And so I personally don't think that's good. I don't know if everybody will agree with me on that, but I don't think I think you should love the team that you work with, but you should remember that it is work and it's just a part of it. So,
I mean, I think sometimes when you are in a commission sales role, it's very easy for things to become incestual. Like it's hard to draw a line because when clients need you, you have to respond. And so it's really tough to create boundaries. So I would agree with that. Maybe have some sort of space where you can, have some relief from like being with everybody that, you're working with would be good.
For sure. Yeah. What else you got?
So I think I've also seen a lot of mistakes in agents, picking the right place to be. And when I say agents, I mean real estate agents, because that is basically majority of my experience. But a lot of people are afraid to change and afraid to move or afraid to abandon something for maybe their next growth phase of life. And so what that does is it keeps them somewhere that may not be the best fit for them. So, when you were working at a furniture store, you obviously learned skills that were necessary for you to potentially go on to a tougher or like maybe an easier sales role. So, I think loyalty that leads into really like, I don't know why people feel like sometimes they need to be loyal, because at the end of the day, you served them and they served you for a specific purpose. Right. So if, you need to move on. Just making sure you're selecting the right place to be at whatever point you're at in your career and in your life. If it's not serving you in, 3 to 4 out of your 5 areas, then maybe it's time to look elsewhere. So I think getting caught in loyalty and caught up in being and maybe they're not the right place is a common mistake too.
So true. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten with the career, and it wasn't specifically tied to commission sales, but it was just the only person who's looking out for your career is you. And so if it's not serving you anymore, make it a change. That makes perfect sense. Or find something that's, if you like commission, but you're not paying the bills, then maybe it's a base plus commission or a different model or a different something. That doesn't mean you have to quit your life entirely, but I like that. Shifting gears. That's a really good point. I like that one.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a matter of just looking at like who you admire and where they are at. And if you want to get there, maybe, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's figure out what they did along the way to get to where they are. So,
right. And, I wanted to tag on, one of my next thoughts was, it's about relationships. Sales is about relationships. And I think one of the things that you get caught up in is more sales, more prospects, talk to more people. And the thing that sometimes people forget with the life balance department is the relationships. Those relationships are client relationships, and they're not necessarily your friends. They might grow to be your friends in the long run. But if you take more and more sales calls, it will start to feel lonelier and lonelier, because there's actually new research that came out that shows that even a single conversation with a friend, like one of your friends per day, is enough to boost your happiness. Let me read this here. It is enough to boost your happiness and lower stress. So the conversation needs to be quality, though, to improve your day. So that can mean anything from deep discussions to just catching up or joking around. But the study determined that in-person interactions were better. Social media doesn't count. So what I take that to mean is, if you're in sales or commissions and you're talking to customers all day, I know for some people who might be a little more introverted, you might be a little bit burned out at the end of the day, but remember that you have friendships too. And so talking to one of your friends, maybe even text message or something, but a direct connection with someone who knows you and you know them is going to be really helpful for your life. And so I actually have the link to that study that just came out. It was in February of 2023. So, it's a really recent one, but I'll drop the link in the notes for anybody who wants to check it out. But I found that was really fascinating. Just remember that talking to someone who's a friend is a huge benefit for life balance, which is awesome. I like that a lot.
I believe it. I would agree with that. I know you said I could disagree with you at any point. I definitely agree with you.
Yes, April. Does everybody, it's funny, man, like on podcasts, sometimes the hosts are just like, oh, that's great. And oh, that's great. And it's like a big love fest. And like, no, we could disagree. But but we're also allowed to agree.
It wasn't crazy. I was just talking to one of my girlfriends from home a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, after that conversation, I actually texted her the next morning, and I was like, you have no idea like how good that conversation was for my soul, and I think so
absolutely
there's proof in the pudding. So.
That's amazing. Yes, I love it, April. What else you got? Any other mistakes that you've seen?
I see mistakes all the time. But those are the two main ones. I should have probably had three.
You're allowed to have however many. I got one more that I'll share though.
I think I do.
Hit me.
Sometimes losing sight of what the goal is and what the end goal is, and falling out of love, the reason that you decided to do something anyway. Like you just said, being in commission-based sales, being in, it's about relationships. And I've seen a lot of people in this business get very money hungry. And, life at some point will catch up with you at that point. You're starting to see it a lot, especially with a lot of the antitrust issues that are going on in the real estate industry. And, you have to truly love relationships and love working with people and love serving your clients and keeping your eye on that prize every day. Like making a difference, in people's lives, I think is something that I've definitely seen. You can just see it, and you can see it reflected in their sales when there isn't a passion there anymore for doing the right thing.
Gosh, so true. At the end of my furniture career, I was starting to look at, okay, what's my next move going to be? I was thinking about making a change and headed up to the government and that kind of thing. And at the end there, my performance at work definitely waned as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
longer you try to keep it going because it's
Right.
what you've done, the more people will eventually start to notice, and it'll just like generally people don't, they're at the end of their careers is not when they're starting to get burned out is not
Mm-hmm.
the months where they break the records generally,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a fluke,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it
Mm-hmm.
comes through in your work. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And you know,
absolutely.
the one other thought, the mistake that I saw made, there was one moment that happened in my career, which I'll never forget. It was my first month there. I'm at the store and I was not going to hit my sales goal that first month. And so my manager's words to me were, well, you're a little bit short. So are you going to come in on your days off and hit that goal? And it was that perception that like, okay, well, now I have to choose. Well, do I want to have days off, or because I'm not going to hit this goal, am I going to give all of my time off up so that I can work more? And that's that thinking that happens with commission. It's like, oh gosh, well, the more I work, the more money I make. And then you just get in you spin up and all you do is work all the time, and that's not healthy. So
it's not, but at the same time, I think in the beginning of people's careers, especially in commission-based sales, you have to somewhat work harder than you will 3 years from then, or 2 years from then, or even a year from then. You got to kind of put in the work in the beginning and know that the seeds that you're planting will hopefully grow, you know, and be able to be cultivated, you know, from Iowa. You know, that will be able to, you know, like you'll reap the benefit of the reward. But I do see that too, where agents will come in and they'll see, you know, the real estate industry obviously does not have an image problem. I mean, $1 million listing, all of those things, and that they think they're going to walk into this sort of lifestyle. And it's a bunch of little actions that combine into, you know, finally a closed deal. And then, you know, and then it may not look like it does on TV. And it certainly isn't. And so I think that's one of the biggest mistakes too, is that people don't really understand in the beginning, you're going to have to bust your butt to get there. So yeah, you can't really think about, okay, you do have to come in on your day off if you care, you know.
and I wanted to share best practices, and one of the things that comes to mind as you're talking here is like, you know, and actually this kind of feeds into what I just said, which is, so working more doesn't necessarily mean working better, right? It's the work smarter, not harder thing.
Right.
And so the metaphor that I have, and I think this definitely applied to my sales career, was certainly the education and developing yourself is important. And that kind of feeds into what you're talking about, which is work harder in the beginning, work harder, but also anytime you start a new job, you're going to need to evolve. So my metaphor for this is, look, LeBron James didn't become, you know, one of the best basketball players, and people might be disagreeing with me. Some of you might not listen to basketball or listen or watch basketball, and that's fine. But LeBron James is one of the all-star, you know, considered one of the best NBA players of all times. Basically, to me, if you got a Space Jam movie, then that puts you up there, right? LeBron and Michael Jordan are those two guys. So, but you don't get to that level because you just played a lot of basketball games, right? There's education, there's coaching, there's training, there's practice. And so one of the things that I think people get hung up on is working more doesn't necessarily mean working better or working smarter. And so you have to work on yourself. Like, what is your practice? You know, you go to the gym to work out and get stronger. Well, do you go to the gym for your career? What do you do for like to make you a better salesperson? Because just working more doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be more and more successful. And so remember that.
Right, exactly. I think that also comes with experience and maturity and confidence. That is nothing anybody can give you, but that is something that develops over time. I mean, I look at, you know, when I met you and when we decided to create that networking group in Crystal City, which was such a good idea. I mean, I will tell you, I'm still closing business off of that networking group years and years later.
It's amazing.
It works. But, you know, if I knew then what I knew now, you know, you can't like turn back, you can't take back experience and what it gives you. So, you know, when we met each other, there's definitely certain things that I should have been doing had I been coachable, had I been trainable, had I been mature enough to know that maybe other people know better than me. So you got to be open to also, knowing that you're not going to know everything right away. So
for sure. So true. And it's a learning, right? You continue to evolve. There's that whole thing about, what is it? It's 10,000 hours, I think, or something is the number of hours before you become really good at something or whatever. There's an uplift with everything, but remember, a lot of that is education and training and practice. Like, do you actually practice your craft? And that's a thing. I was at the fair the other day and I walked by, I don't know if this has happened to any of you, but I walked by, T-Mobile had a display. And they were selling the home internet for T-Mobile. They've got like 5G home internet you can get now, and they just give you a modem, take it home, and it's like a cell phone sitting in your house that becomes your modem for all your. So this is their 5G home internet, and they're selling it. And this guy, credit to him, because when you work at a fair, his commission or his performance is based on the business he closes at the fair. So he only gets paid if you sign up for T-Mobile there at the fair. And nobody goes to the fair thinking, I'm going to shop for home internet. That's going to, so this guy, it's funny because after all of the practice and everything, I was able to, the people that I was with were taking him at his word, and, he was creating a sense of urgency by, there's not going to be if you don't do it today, there's going to be a sign up fee later. And I was just laughing because in my head, I'm like, oh, hey, he created a sense of urgency. That was a test close. That was a close. But it only comes with that practice of going through the exercise of the sales. So you can really pick these things out and know that that's what's happening there. So it was also fun because, I shot him down. I didn't sign up for T-Mobile 5G at the fair, but I felt for the man on it was an aggressive sale. It was very aggressive because if you didn't buy then, he was also never going to see you again. So he wasn't worried about the relationship with you either.
And changing people's minds, in part of my, management role in real estate was helping recruit agents to a brokerage. So I'd have to call them on a day, any given day. Most likely it wouldn't be the day they were mad at their current company. It would be a day that they're happy with them. But I'd have to, over a period of time, change their mind to even want to potentially come and meet with me. So that is the most difficult thing to do. When you're working at a furniture store and people are walking in to buy a couch, they're probably going to buy a couch, most likely from you or the next furniture store. If they're walking into an open house, my open house, most likely they will buy a home. They've already made the decision, right, to buy. So those commission-based roles where you have to convince people to do something that they didn't walk in knowing that they would even do are the most difficult. So props to that dude at the fair.
Props to that guy at the fair, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cheers to that.
So any other best practices or hacks or things that you've thought you've got for, in this, for the person working in commission?
If we're off the mistake, train, I think the biggest thing is to really know your own strengths and to know yourself. Come to the realization where, I do have a marketing background. I do know what I think I want to see looks good, but I also know that it's not the highest and best use of my time to be, moving graphics around or images of a home on a brochure layout. My team does that for me. And I am totally fine at this point in my life because I have a child, I have a life, people that need my attention outside of my clients, that I realize I'm going to do my job at 150%. Hopefully the people that RLAH is employing are going to do their job at 150%, and their love is graphic design. So I'm going to let them do what they love because they're better at it than me. And therefore I have that time, and that, on the table for me. So just knowing your personality and your tendencies and where you could potentially give some things away and give some things up is I think one of the best things somebody can do who's in commission-based sales or in, an independent contractor role of some sort. So I've done a lot of, I don't know if you've read any good books about it in the past, but The Road Back to You, it's a great one. Reading about, the Enneagram and where you fall in your personality on the Enneagram, who you would work well with, where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And Strengths Finder. That's an older book, but it's such a great book to kind of do an introspective look at like where you might be able to like give some things up or put them away that need to get done, but you might not be the best at doing them. So, or it might not be the best use of your time to do them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot. It is about your strengths and knowing your strengths. And, there's only a certain number of hours of the day. Like, I did a TED talk on the value of your time and that kind of thing. And like, you only have a certain amount of time and your time is worth something. And so be conscious of the way you're spending it. And that applies at work and at home too. So if you're, if you could move graphics around and get a decent thing, but there's somebody else who could do it in way less time, way better than you, then leverage that relationship or that ability and find out. Like,
or find a service that they're the ones that hire the people that have the passion for it.
Yes.
So let them live out their passions while you live out yours.
And the one other thing for life balance, one of the best practices that I certainly hope that people embrace is in sales, oftentimes it becomes a little more cutthroat where, like you said, you're very money motivated. Let me close this sale. Or in the furniture store, the idea was if somebody came in and they asked for a salesperson and that salesperson wasn't there, you could simply say, well, they're not here today, but I'm Brian. How can I help you? And then if I close that sale, it's mine. And so that's this thing where if you're not there, you might miss a prospect that comes in or something like that. And so the thing that I think is a valuable tool is certainly everybody in the furniture store, the big thing was, hey man, get some money down, get a deposit on it, follow up with them. You can take a deposit over the phone, but if they come in and you're not there, then you might miss it. Or if they want you to get credit, it's possible to split a deal. And so the splits thing, if you partner with somebody at the showroom and you're like, hey, this is me or my partner is such and such, and you have a colleague, then if you're not there, you are still getting half of that sale and it's not a complete loss. And so partnering up or tag teamwork in sales, while it's a real challenge because like if you don't, then that's not the whole commission. You're missing on money, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of trust,
right.
That can they do this? I don't know. What if they screw it up for me? I have two business partners, in my career as an agent. And I mean, mostly they are there for like, if you're out of town, if I'm out of town, clients need things whenever, it's like they know you're gone or something. But you got to set it up. And if the client and getting them what they want is really at the heart and the soul of that transaction, then those decisions are made easier. But yeah, it definitely has to be somebody, you vibe with. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Now
that's hard.
Let's switch gears now and talk about frontline supervisors and middle managers who are overseeing commission salespeople.
Yeah.
What are the lens we're looking through is how do you maintain life balance with your folks that are with the team, the people that are on your team? What are their mistakes and best practices? What are your thoughts, April, on this one?
As a manager of realtors in the past, is that what you're kind of getting at there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Manager in the past, or for people who currently are, like, what are your thoughts on that one? Now you're supervising the commission salespeople.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've basically only always been at boutique brokerages real estate brokerages that provide a level of service in the back end for agents, right? So like, it's hard to sell something you don't believe in. I probably wouldn't be anywhere else that wouldn't have that. When I moved to Iowa and I worked at, a larger scale brokerage with limited service to their agents, I saw, and I experienced the challenges myself that those situations and limited service agency provides. So I've seen it all. I mean, so I think the biggest mistake would be not yet again picking the right brokerage for your personality or your support, because maybe you're worried about the split, or like they take a higher cut, or their transaction fee is higher. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if it's a couple $100 difference, or even $1,000 difference over time, like if at the end of the day you use that time to do something else to generate more business for yourself, then it was worth it, So I think like that's the biggest mistake I see people make, is just getting stuck on these little, the the little numbers that add up to the big ones in the end.
Sure. Okay. That makes, I mean, in total, it's your life and the deal, not just the deal. The dollar isn't the end all be all. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, managing agents, it was, they'd come to you, with a problem or an issue, and, most of the time it constituted like clients or a situation that had arisen, but, tigers really don't change their stripes. You see the same people have the same issue over and over. So being open to growth and open to making yourself better is always the advice I would try to give people, like, share books or resources or, what I've done in the past and stories of what I've done, and so that was just the best way I could try to help guide people. So. Yeah. Because they weren't employees. So that's where the gray area is and the tough thing, so you can't really say, I
think one of the other mistakes that I've seen too is that there is this idea that just because you're a good salesperson means you'll be a great manager. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is, it's a skill set. It's a learning that you have to do. Like LeBron James didn't become the best without practice and coaching. And so if you step into management, that is a completely different skill from, it's great that you can sell all day, but now that you're in management, that is a different set of skills. So don't take your same sales approach into management, learn the new skills, learn the different perspective, and really look at it, hone your craft now as a manager too, so that you can help those people. You have the perspective of having worked on commission. So it's really valuable to be able to really understand where they're coming from, but managing those people is going to be a different skill. So it's that what got you here won't get you there. And that's very, very true of being a great manager versus a great commission salesperson.
One of the things that I had the experience of being able to go to, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Black Swan Group is a huge a consulting firm for negotiation skills for agents. I had the pleasure of being invited to an event where they talked about the main points of the book called Never Split the Difference. So Chris Voss, FBI negotiator for years, wrote this book called Never Split the Difference. Have you heard of it?
I've read it.
Yes.
It's a great book. Yes, it's a great book.
So I've been to some of their events, and one of the things that one of the instructors went over one day was like mirroring. And as a manager of people, a manager also of a 4-year-old, which sometimes isn't that different than managing full-grown adults. So I started to practice those skills, that I had learned in that class. I'm like, well, if I practice it on my toddler, who's now a 4, almost 5-year-old, maybe it will help me learn to naturally more do it in front of the adults I interact with every day. And it really does work. So I think mirroring what people say back to them, so you can sort of, if people are like feel listened to and heard, it's one of the best skills I feel like I walked away with after that class and taking it. It was just seeing it live and seeing it actually change your interactions with people as a manager. It's insane how well it works. So
that's awesome. I will drop the link. I will drop the link to that in the notes for this episode too, so you can check it out if you're
and I actually highly recommend the audiobook. Wow, you could buy the hard copy or the hard copy as well, but the audiobook is great because you hear the inflection in his voice, and so much of it is tonality. His like the late night FM DJ voice or whatever he says he uses. It's really great. It's a really great tool, like in managing anybody. Yeah. So
that's good. Mirroring. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yes.
And actually, it's funny you said audiobook. I think it's fair that if you listen to podcasts, you probably are hip to the game of audiobooks. Yeah. So it wouldn't be a stretch.
Little did I know Audible actually charges you every month. I didn't know. Yeah. I was like sitting around with a group of friends one day, and I was like, yeah, I get 2 free Audible books every month with my free Amazon Prime. And they're like, you get Audible for free with Amazon Prime? I'm like, yeah, I do. And then I went back and looked at my credit card statement. I was like, oh, yes, I know I don't. I've been paying for this.
Definitely been paying for that. Absolutely. I am a 2 book a month guy, and I read a bunch, like a book a week is my average. And I mean, just a ton, but I also listen to them, right? I listen to them on 2 or 3 times speed. By the way, there's a life hack for you. If you want to get through books faster, when they teach you how to do the speaking, or when you read a book for an audiobook, you have to enunciate clearly and speak a little slower. So it's like, if I go to the South and then the people in the South, I'm going to try to do a drawl and they talk this fast, versus you can just talk at a regular speed like this, and you'll totally understand me speaking it this way too. That's the difference between the original and the 2 times speed. So don't be scared of 2 times speed. You can do it. I tried
it. I can't keep up with it. I can't. I need like a 1.5.
Right. 1.5, start there. You'll get used to it. I slowly crept up to 3 times
like,
speed,
and
I love that now. Yeah,
Rewind.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. So one of the things I wanted to share for frontline supervisors and middle managers, there's a couple of things, but we talked about promoting partnering, or being supportive of partnering, or your people. If they've got a deal coming in, you certainly want them to be comfortable saying, hey, go talk to my manager who can help me get this deal done because I'm not here. And by doing that, not only do you help the employee in that moment, but the impression that the employee gets is also that you support them not being there on their time off. And supporting people's time off is such a valuable thing in today's day and age of, like, people can work anywhere, and all the things you've heard about people switching jobs and stuff. Having a manager who, if you're on vacation and you come back and you find out that they did that for you while you were gone, is such a wonderful thing to have that kind of support from your manager. So definitely promote the partnering among the staff, or supporting the staff. I think that kind of goes without saying sometimes, but I wanted to say it because it's the reason I wanted to bring it up is not just because it's what you should do, but because the way it feels on the back end is very supported, and people will stick around for that, which I think is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the other ones that I'm on a roll here, and I was just thinking about, when it comes to prospecting now for teaching your teams, you can't just keep calling and saying, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Because those calls, you're allowed basically one of those. And then after that, why are you calling me again? So having something of value to offer them when you call. So as a manager, certainly for the employee's perspective, have a reason besides, I want your money. I want your money.
Yeah.
Like, offer them something. What's in it for them, right? It's the with them. What's in it for me? So that's a thing. But also remembering that as a manager now, if you find an anecdote or a story, or here's some kind of latest news thing on this particular item, or there is something of relevance that you can help provide your team that would be a reason to follow up. Obviously, everybody there's a sale coming up, so that's an obvious one where there's going to be a discount. But besides that, like for realtors, it might be, hey, there was actually an offer that fell through on this one, and I heard that this little anecdote, they might do it for this amount of money, or some kind of story or something that's relevant to the person, so that you're offering them some value or some tip, something. Interest rates just went down by 0.25%, or some reason to call them for them, not for you. That's a huge thing on your prospecting. So help employees with that.
Absolutely. I think that's yet again another big difference between being at a boutique versus a large like run-of-the-mill, you're a number brand, is that all real estate is local and happens in your area. I mean, you even know this living in Pentagon City, Crystal City, that like it's different a mile away over up here at my house where I'm in Ballston, and so it's so hyper local to the market. And so when our brokerage got together and like our leadership got together every week, talked about strategies and ways in which we could help support our agents, we always talked about, okay, what is the best way? What are the easiest things that we can get these realtors in the most specific way, that we can add value to them, which then they can be at brunch on Saturday or Sunday and roll it into a conversation, with their clients and offer value to them. So, sort of, that's the biggest difference between being somewhere, like here, is that I'm empowered with information I'm not taking the time to do those stats, to crunch those numbers, to know that I get an email every Monday that tells me that there are 2.5 offers on every listing in the DMV, and half of those contracts that were ratified had home inspections. That doesn't, in the past week, that isn't stuff that I spent my time doing. It's the numbers that my company has crunched, and they send those to me, which then I can talk. I've literally brought it up in 5 or 6 conversations this week. Brought it up now again, 7. And so it allows me to then talk, and to offer them something about, and to help guide them in their decision making on when their house should go on the market. We're speeding up the listing now because he heard that. He's like, okay, we need to get rolling. We need to get this place on the market. So if you can offer something of value that then trickles down through them helping the client, they have my loyalty, until forever, because it's helped me have easier conversations out there in the field. So.
For sure. Offering that value. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good one, Nicole.
I don't know if you saw, I don't know if, yet again, we were joking, like, do my emails go to Brian's priority box, or do they go into I'll look at that later. But if you haven't looked at it yet this week, the email that I sent out last week is about, I'm a realtor. I come across contractors. I come across home organizers. I come across painters, like people all the time that people need to use. Right. And so what I did is I offered who do you have? Who do you need? What project at home is overwhelming you, right? Like, let me make it easy for you to make a simple phone call. You don't have to go on Google and find somebody you can trust. I have the Rolodex of people that you can call and trust. So making life easier for your clients when you are in commission-based sales is just, if you get that key and you can turn it in that lock, you'll have people's loyalty, for life. Because I think keeping people coming back is one of those things too. Brian, he's the best furniture salesman. I love my couch. Thanks for coming over and watching the Super Bowl, but you should go to him when you want one.
Sure.
Think about the long game there, not just the short.
Absolutely. So. Yep. I dig that a lot. And, one of the other ones that I thought as a supervisor, the other thing you could do for your people might be looking for ways to engage with potential clients. And I know sometimes this is hard, but as a manager, it's like, if, for example, cold calling someone is painful and it's not a high likelihood of success, right? So for my example here is, like, you could just call somebody out of the blue or message, like on LinkedIn all the time. I get people who just email constantly, and their email their message is a straight up ask of, hey, I have this thing to offer you. And I really just want to, I delete those immediately. Those are ridiculous. However, in the world of furniture, there are Facebook groups of people that are trying to sell furniture. So that's a place where the leads are warm, not cold. So if instead of cold emailing or cold calling or trying to work it that way, if you could join a Facebook group of people that are selling couches, and then you can go on and you have a couch that's just like the one for sale, and they're saying, hey, I'm trying to sell, or hey, I'm Brian, I actually have this one right here. Here's the link to the website where this thing is listed. Also happy to share that one too. Or somebody says they're looking for something, that being available, looking for those opportunities for leads that are
creating a space for that.
Right.
That's
exactly.
what the Facebook group did. Right.
Yeah. And, but create not, and you could create that group yourself, but at the same time, being a part of those groups, joining those groups and engaging with those groups, even if they don't come to you the first time or the second time, if you're a realtor or you're selling something, it's finding the places where your potential clients hang out, and then don't show up and be weird. Show up and be helpful, right? Don't show up and be like, hey, I want to sell a house.
Walking out of there being like, I'm gonna get somebody. No, that's not gonna work. Like, people will see through that like the clearest diamond they've ever seen. It's just like, people can sense it when you need something. You come across as like you want to help and in a genuine manner, yet again, as a brokerage employee helping other employees, or even as an independent contractor helping those around you, you have to come at it with a purpose. And that purpose cannot be self-serving. It has to be for the greater good. So.
And, I'm and in sharing this tip too, I'm not sharing this because I'm sharing this from the lens that I want, like, find those communities, find those groups. And I share that because I really wish no one ever had to get the I was put on the spot. That story I told you where my first month, oh, you're not going to hit your goal. Are you going to come in on your days off? Like, well, actually, I don't want to come in on my day off. But if I can jump on Facebook and find some leads and do some work find a way to do the work that doesn't involve me giving up my life to do it and helping me find opportunities like that or, practicing or evolving or that kind of thing, that is really helpful for the people that you're working with. So
you just also never know where that will lead. You just don't. One of the things in another book that I love, Start With No, which is where Chris Voss got a lot of the basis for Never Split the Difference. He talks about clean slating everything, clean slate. No, even if yesterday nobody came into the furniture store, today is a new day. I assume nothing. I don't assume anybody's going to want to walk in here and buy a $5,000 couch. I don't assume they're going to want to buy a $300 end table. Like you literally, it is a new day. It is a clean slate. Like I love the clean slating. Just attitude. You got to have it because you just never know where things will lead. So
true.
Yeah. Love that.
And sometimes, and it's funny, we're saying this, and then I know that also on the flip side can be absolutely exhausting because you hustle and you hustle and you hustle and nothing happens and nothing happens and nothing happens and nothing happens. And then I can't afford to pay this, bill. We're going to be a little short this month, like that. All of that is very real. So the ebb and flow of it is very real. So support, finding ways to support your team with the ups and downs is important.
Yeah. Sharing, like you just saying that to me, I didn't even know there were Facebook groups for furniture sales, although, like I'm not in that arena, but like now I know. And so like, I think that is such a good, being open to sharing with others and not gatekeeping. When you have like this attitude of more like abundance and being like, oh, well, hey, I went into that and this helped me because of that. Like, so sharing those anecdotes, I think is also 100%. Yeah,
absolutely.
You got to do it. You got to grow and share, and don't be scared that anybody's going to take anything from you because.
I mean, and it might happen, but it's going to pay dividends so much more than it will the short-term hurt will be worth the long-term gain, in my opinion. So that's a good one. Well, those are the things that I had. April, did you have anything else as far as for managers or supervisors on mistakes or best practices, hacks, tips, stuff like that?
I think yet again, just being open to sharing and realizing that other people might be able to do something just as well or better than you. There were definitely some times in my career as a manager where, I would want like a fellow employee, like I'd want them to take on a project. So I would sort of be like, okay, well, here, this is my idea for that. And like, in hoping they would take it, and run with it because I know that I am not the best person or I don't have the background to understand how it would all happen, but then trusting that person that if they don't take that idea and run with it, there could be a reason, why. So yet again, checking the ego. I think that's where a lot of this boils down to. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. And you dropped a lot during this episode. You've said a lot of great books and stuff. And so I'm going to make sure that I share those links in the episode notes here. I did have one book when I started, Zig Ziglar was the big name in sales. And so Secrets of Closing the Sale by Zig Ziglar was the first book that sort of changed my life on the sales front. And I'll share the link to that one too. But that's there's all kinds of great resources. We talked about, LeBron James didn't become what he is today by playing basketball games all the time. And so that making sure you're learning and educating yourself in this would be a good one. Do you have any books actually off the top of your head? Do you have any books for managers of salespeople that come to mind? If you don't, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
the management part. Yes, actually I do. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a really great book for managers of any sort of sales company or sales roles. It's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. The other one is, they both start with 5, is The 5 Voices. Have you heard of that book?
5 Functions of a Team and 5 Voices. Now I'm going to check these.
Yep.
5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Yep. And then
5 Voices.
5 Voices. Those are 2 great books for managers. Like as I was putting myself in my leadership role, I really digested those books and they were very, helpful.
Nice.
For me. So yeah.
Cool.
And then do you want me to get into commission-based sales, what I think is a good book?
Yeah, if you got any other ones, we're on a roll with the books. Bring it on, girl.
More.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I have one more because I am obsessed with it right now. It's called Ninja Selling.
Ninja Selling.
Yes,
okay.
It's so good. It's my favorite book. I'm living, breathing it. It gives you the structure to your day, like everything to a T.
Oh, nice.
So that's a really good
Okay.
one. And then there's a really great podcast that I had written down. It's about setting boundaries, which I think kind of rolls
life
into
balance.
Theme,
that's exactly
right?
what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's with Nedra Tawa, and it's on the Pretty Smart podcast about setting boundaries with Nedra Tawa. So I think getting into specific episodes of podcasts is better sometimes than just saying what podcast.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes there's 700 episodes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll subscribe to this. So if that's a specific episode, that's cool. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'll get the link to that specific episode. I like that. That's cool. I like that. Well, April, here we're kind of, let's bring it to a close here. And so what I want to do is first I want to say, here's what I love. I love the fact that I appreciate and love that you have this perspective from both as a supervisor and a manager, and also as a straight up realtor that works on commission and that same thing. And so I really appreciate that you have the perspectives and stuff you offered today are also, I can see them applying both to the employee and the manager and supervisor. And this is kind of really helpful across the board and stuff. And so I appreciate that you are, well, thank you for sharing I did a talk on time. So thank you for sharing your time with me and with us today with these things. And for those folks who don't want to keep in touch with you or reach out to you because they have questions about realtors, the stuff we got today, what's the best way for them to keep in touch?
Yeah, so I know we kind of touched a little bit on social media. I am on LinkedIn. I am also in April Myers. I'm also on Instagram, April Myers DMV. You can get everything there, like personal, professional. It all kind of rolls into one when you're in this business. So those 2 places are the best way to find me. You can also drop me an email. I love a good cold email. It's april@RLAHRE.com. Got it.
And I will drop those links in the episode notes too. So thanks, April. And for you tuning in, one specific request, which is, do you have a friend or colleague who works on commission? And if so, April just made a good point, which is it's not just sharing the podcast, but the actual episode. If you want to share that episode with them, April and I really our goal with this was to share some perspective and possibly help folks in that department with life balance and commission sales. So I would love that if you would share that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And if you're more of a reader, you like the short summary of things, you can subscribe to my email list. I'll send you my 3 favorite life hacks for time hacks right off the bat. And you also get even more content. It's not just the podcast. I'm doing webinars and other things consistently. And so you'll get all of that too. So if you want a little more in life balance and practical productivity, I would love for you to join the email list. But I love sharing this Productivity Gladiator thing with you. So thanks for checking us out. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, Brian.
Productivity Gladiator.